When Little Red Riding Hood took a gun into the woods, the wolf never stood a chance. She didn't wear the red cloak to be seen. She wore it so the forest would remember who she was. Red wasn't skipping through the woods with treats and naivety. She walked with purpose. Beneath the cloth in her basket, she carried a revolver older than her bloodline, engraved with a symbol her grandmother never explained. She wasn't visiting. She was hunting. But the real danger wasn't the wolf everyone feared. It was something even older, and it had been waiting for her. This is not the version they told you by the fire. This is the truth that never made it into the tale. If you love dark twists on classic fairy tales and stories that make you question everything you thought you knew, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these hidden stories alive. Red's footsteps echo through a forest soaked in silence and blood. But as the branches close in and the whispers begin, one truth becomes clear. She wasn't just carrying a weapon. She was carrying a legacy. And it starts here. Red tightened her cloak against the cold breath of the forest. The trees loomed tall and silent, their branches tangled like hands whispering secrets overhead. In her wicker basket, nestled between bread and a jar of preserves, lay a weapon wrapped in red linen. Her grandmother had always warned her never to trust the quiet in these woods. But Red no longer believed in fear. The path beneath her boots was soaked from last night's rain, and each step sank softly, muting her arrival. A gust of wind carried the smell of iron and ash. She didn't flinch. She wasn't a girl anymore. She was a hunter. And this wasn't a visit to Grandma's. It was a reckoning. She remembered her father's scream echoing through the woods. Years ago, she had hidden beneath a cart as the wolf tore through him with monstrous silence, then vanished into the trees. Since then, her grandmother had become both parent and mentor, forging her into something the village wouldn't understand. No lullabies, no dolls, only drills in the cellar, whispered rituals at dusk, and a single command etched into her soul. Next time, don't run. The villagers pitted her, called her strange. But Red learned to keep her truths folded beneath her hood, where no one could touch them. The revolver had belonged to someone else long ago, someone the forest took. It had symbols etched in the metal that her grandmother refused to explain. It's not just to kill, she'd said. It's to remind them who we are. Red never asked what that meant. She only knew how to load it, how to aim, how to shoot without blinking. Her hand rested over the cloth now, fingers brushing the metal. She whispered softly, almost lovingly, to the weapon, "You ready?" A raven overhead answered with a single caw. She smiled. The woods were listening. She reached the fork in the trail, where the official path curved left toward the meadow. But Red turned right, off the trail, into the deep. It was here the others disappeared. Woodcutters, hunters, stray children. But she didn't hesitate. Beneath the foliage, ancient stones marked something old and forgotten. She paused, pressing her palm to a stone. It was warm. The whispers she used to ignore as wind now felt directed, familiar. She didn't understand the language, but her blood responded. Her pulse quickened, not in fear, but in anticipation. The forest didn't scare her anymore. It called her by name. As she pressed forward, she reached into her basket and unwrapped the revolver, slipping it into a worn holster beneath her cloak. The path narrowed, overgrown and shadowed. Every leaf seemed to shiver as she passed. In her pocket, she carried a locket with her father's picture. In the other, a dried herb pouch from her grandmother. In case the beast isn't the only thing out there. She had prepared for this day her entire life. But something gnawed at her thoughts. A question she'd never asked. What if the wolf wasn't a real monster? And what if she wasn't the hero of this story? The forest thickened around Red as the trail dissolved beneath moss and thorn. Every branch felt intentional, as though guiding her deeper rather than blocking her path. Shadows shifted even without wind, and distant bird calls echoed twice, as if the forest were mimicking itself. Red didn't slow. She moved like someone who belonged, though every part of her screamed she did not. A blood-stained cloth caught on a root. It wasn't fresh, but not old either. Claw marks ran across nearby bark, deep, deliberate, and far too high for any normal animal. She knelt, tracing the grooves. Not fear. Pattern. Ritual. Something here wasn't just hunting. It was warning. She stood and turned her gaze upward. Above her, nestled between thick limbs, a charm spun slowly in the air, an old talisman of twine and bone, one she'd seen her grandmother burn before. But this one was untouched, glowing faintly in the dim light. Her stomach turned. These were meant to banish spirits, or contain them. Her fingers itched toward a revolver, but she didn't draw it yet. The forest was testing her. She walked on, passing under arching roots and crooked stones, until the whispering began. At first it was wind, then it spoke her name. Red. It came not from one direction, but from everywhere, woven into the very breath of the trees. She froze. The whisper was layered. One voice, then two, then hundreds. Her hand shot to the gun, but she didn't draw. Instead, she whispered back, "I'm not afraid." Silence fell, sudden and absolute. Then a single phrase returned, clear as glass. "We remember your blood." She backed away slowly, her mind racing. Was it the wolf they remembered? Or her grandmother? Or something older still? The raven from before appeared again, circling once before vanishing toward the north. She followed. As she crossed a stream blackened by something unnatural, the air grew colder. The trees bent lower, almost bowing. Ahead, a figure stood, cloaked in green and brown, face hidden, bow across his back. A hunter. He raised a hand in greeting, but didn't speak. Red approached slowly, her fingers brushing the grip of her gun. "Are you tracking the wolf?" she asked. The man didn't answer. He stepped aside, gesturing silently toward a patch of ground. It was soaked in blood, fresh, not animal. "Human. That's not his kill," she muttered. The hunter tilted his head. His eyes flashed, just for a second, with recognition. Of her. Memories rushed in like a flood. Her grandmother's voice. "If the forest sends a hunter, don't trust his silence. It hides the truth." Red's breathing slowed. The man smiled faintly and walked into the trees, disappearing without a sound. Red turned back to the bloody patch. There were footprints. Bare, small. A child? No. They circled back like bait. A trap. She finally drew the revolver. It pulsed slightly in her grip, as if alive. Then a realization struck her. The wolf was afraid. Not of her, not of the gun, but of something deeper in the forest. And whatever it was, it had just started watching. The clearing was too quiet. Red's breath turned to mist as she stepped forward, the revolver steady in her hand. Ahead, curled beneath a twisted yew tree, was the wolf. He wasn't stalking. He was waiting. His fur was matted with dry blood, but his yellow eyes tracked her every movement. Red didn't hesitate. She raised a gun. No dramatic speech. No warning. Just a shot, loud, final, echoing to the trees like a crack in reality. The wolf jerked, then slumped. But before his body stilled, he spoke. Not a growl, not a snarl. A voice, clear, human. "She's coming for you now." Red froze. The barrel still smoked in her grip. She stared at the wolf's lifeless body, but the voice echoed again inside her. "She's coming." Who? The question rooted itself deep. The revolver felt heavier. Her feet moved on their own, backing away from the corpse. The forest didn't react. No wind, no bird, just silence, until something shifted behind her. Red turned and ran, back through branches and memory, back to the only place she still believed in, Grandma's house. But even as she ran, she knew what she would find. The path didn't feel like return. It felt like descent. She arrived at the cottage. The door was open, swaying on its hinges. The herb bundles that once hung along the windows were gone. Inside, the teapot boiled dry on the stove, screaming into the air. But no one was there. Red stepped inside slowly. The wooden floor creaked. Too loud. Something red stained the floorboards. But it wasn't the dark, oily blood of a beast. It was bright, fresh, human. Her voice cracked as she called, "Grandma?" No answer. On the wall, the old mirror was shattered, but her reflection remained, uncorrupted, staring back, watching, and behind that reflection, another pair of eyes. The revolver rose instinctively, aiming at the glass, but then she saw it. A symbol, faint, burned into the wall behind the stove. The same sigil carved into the grip of her weapon. 3 crescents surrounding a single dot. Her grandmother once warned her, "If you ever see the mark again, you're too late." Red backed away. Then the door slammed shut behind her. She turned, and the hunter stood in the doorway. He smiled, as if this had always been the plan. "She passed it to you," he said. "The roll, the curse, the hunger." Red's hands trembled. "What are you talking about?" He stepped forward. "You're not the girl. You're the gate." The floor groaned. The shadows lengthened. Red looked down and saw the same mark on her own palm, faint and glowing. Her eyes widened, breath caught in her throat. Everything twisted. The whispers returned, now inside her. The revolver pulsed. Not a tool of vengeance, but of inheritance. "The wolf was just the first," the hunter said. "You killed the wrong monster." The lights flickered, though there were no lights. The forest had followed her in. Or maybe she had never left. Then the voice came again, not from the hunter, but from her grandmother, disembodied and serene. "She's ready now." Red collapsed to her knees as the whispers tightened around her skull like thorns. They weren't voices now. They were memories not her own. She saw glimpses of women in crimson cloaks throughout time, faces shifting like smoke, each carrying the same mark on their hand. Some resisted. Most didn't. All of them ended here, in the forest, at the threshold between prey and predator. Her grandmother's voice returned, not tender, but commanding. "It's not the wolf we fear. It's the girl who survives the wolf." Red clutched her chest, the revolver dropping to the floor with a hollow clang. The cottage lights flickered out. When they returned, she wasn't alone. The hunter had removed his hood. His face was hollowed, ancient, not with age, but with burden. "You think this was about revenge?" he asked. "You think this was justice?" Red didn't answer. She saw it in his eyes. He had worn the mark once too. He had failed, or chosen to abandon it. The curse had to pass. And now it had. He handed her a key carved from bone. Under the floor, the book's waiting. She didn't move. "You already opened it," he said softly. "You just didn't recognize the pages were written in you." He stepped back and vanished into the dark without a sound. Red pried the floorboards open with trembling hands. Beneath lay an old leather-bound tome, bound with hair and sealed with wax shaped like the revolver's sigil. As her fingers touched the cover, warmth surged through her, familiar and terrifying. She opened it. The first page bore her name, the second a prophecy. When the red becomes a root, the forest shall rise again. Images flickered through her mind. Rituals, sacrifices, transformations. The wolf had been a test. The hunter, a guide. And she was the vessel, the protector, the predator. She stood slowly, no longer afraid, no longer questioning. The forest had chosen, and so had she. Outside, the air had changed. The trees leaned toward her as she stepped from the cottage. They didn't tower, they bowed. Creatures she couldn't name watched from the underbrush, unblinking, reverent. Her red cloak hung heavier now, darker, infused with shadow. She holstered the revolver, not as a weapon, but as a symbol. The whispers no longer circled. They obeyed. In the distance, she heard footsteps, a young voice calling for help. A child, perhaps, lost. Red tilted her head. She remembered that voice, not from her past, but from the book. The forest didn't need protection. It needed guardians, judges. She smiled. The cycle begins again. She vanished between the trees, not with fear, but with power. And as she walked, roots shifted, light bent, and the forest pulsed with new life. She wasn't red anymore. She was a forest, and she would keep it fed. If you ever enter these woods again, listen closely. If the birds fall silent and the wind carries a girl's voice, run, because the wolf never stood a chance. But you might not be so lucky. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, comment, And subscribe to our channel for more twisted tales from the world you thought you knew. Want to see the hidden truths behind more legends? Join our members-only circle and support the channel. Your curiosity keeps these stories alive. More revelations are on the way. Don't miss what comes next.